ain't going back. Not gonna buy into all that. Hey, hey, ain't gonna hide. Gonna let all the fears slide. Got mother nature is on my side. Got all of the loving.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the New Now. I'm delighted to have a first-time guest on, Julia Kamman. We're going to take this way out as far as we possibly can, perhaps looking at remote viewing AI mind monsters and seeing where that takes us. Julia, hello.
It is a pleasure to be here, Lorenzo. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm happy to have found you.
Yeah, I know it's I just don't know how things are going to connect anymore, but when I'm following my own intuition and allowing it to flow where it needs to go, I'm finding especially over the last few weeks, as you and I mentioned before we got on, there's been some strange and interesting, I would say, healing energies floating all over the place, through the cacophony. And yeah, perhaps you can give our viewers a bit of background of what you do, why you do it, and then we can get right into it.
I do remote viewing, and I teach others to do remote viewing, and I've really focused on that. I don't like for me, I've come up with my own process. I like to call it inner jeweling, you know? Like we all have that jewel, that third eye, and our pineal, and that's where we get a lot of our insight, and it's like the key to remote viewing and to stimulate that and get a lot of mental like insight and clarity. And basically, remote viewing is projecting your mind to receive information like without leaving your body. And it's like using another sense. It's extra sensory perception, and it's also known as telesthesia and
Mm,
traveling clairvoyance.
interesting.
So it's like clairvoyants who can basically perform this without traveling physically, but you feel like you're there, like without physically being there, but to a distant place, and you could see objects and people and circumstances. And um, it's in the 70s, the CIA had a project like a psychic program for remote viewing for an intelligence tool,
Right.
and it was known as Project Stargate.
Mm,
It was one of the code names for it. And they spent millions of dollars and years of training on this psychic ability and trying to control it. And it's really fascinating of remote influencing,
mm.
how, the studies of taking remote viewers that practice it and having them influence the stock market or a computer, and the effects of that. So I'm more into doing it for the greater good. I'm really strict about who and what I do that for. I used to do like a lot of blind targets for people, and then it's like, I got really strict and picky about who and what I do that with. It's just almost like you wouldn't want to send somebody into like a biological like laboratory, right? Of like without a suit on. There's things that you look at it, if you're blind, major decisions can be made. And I believe that, like, I'm a heavy believer in karma, but I'm really big on accuracy. And I think when you start utilizing that gift towards other things, I believe it affects your accuracy and it opens you up to other things.
Curious, now that we broached the subject, how would you define karma?
I believe that, what you do has a consequence, whether that's bad or good. So when you're fueling something, I believe that it does come back in some form or another. And I also believe that everything we do here is recorded. You can imagine it being recorded on like a little crystal, right? And like everything you see, do, and think about is recorded for all eternity. So anyone that thinks they're getting over on anyone
Mm,
scamming, lying, deceitful, like imagine the entire galaxy can view that at any time, like a fingerprint.
mm.
Like this is who and what you are. This is what you chose to do, and like I believe that.
Makes sense. I've seen there's no lies in energy, right? Energy just is what it is. And if you're making an energetic imprint, you can fool yourself in your mind all you like, but picture's the picture, as you say, for anyone to see. So I would agree with you on your definition of karma. I'm happy to hear how you view it, so to speak. And it's interesting as well. I remember reading up one day that the third eye, the cells inside, are made up of the same cells that your eyes are made up of. So it's interesting,
Mm.
remote viewing, pineal, like it explains to me some of the visions that you can see even when your eyes are closed, because you're literally using another organ built for sight.
Phosphine is an energy that emanates from the brain, allowing
Mm,
like physical objects to be seen in the dark.
hmm,
And the remote viewing, conscious projection, clairvoyance, you could see what will happen because it picks up on the information from the photons and electron of that future moment. And our bodies emit the light of biophotons, which are weak particles of light that aren't visible, and just that the eye itself emits that, like
mm.
the ambient photons. And then you get into the the CSF, the cerebral spinal fluid, and how that stores light, and that's constantly transmitting vibration and light, and how that has a lot to do with our perception, you know, and how it's piezoelectric, and the state of consciousness, and how that flows through us, and how we receive that information. But yeah, it's fascinating that like our light, like DNA emitting, like emits that, and like it comes out of our light, our eye. That's profound.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did study that too, that we're not receivers, we actually send things out even from our nose. Supposedly we send out feelers that can touch the world, that can feel the world, having secondary aspects to all of our senses. So it's fascinating that you've studied, and you're bringing even a lot more of it into focus for me. The spinal fluid, the light. It's very interesting because
And the just the fact that, because there's people are like, wait, how do you see it? Like, explain it. I don't understand it. And it's hard to explain sometimes, but like, look how dependent we're on Wi-Fi. Like, you
mm,
can't see your Wi-Fi signals. Like, when you hold your phone, you're going to receive that data wirelessly. So
mm,
it's like what field you're plugged into and using that. And it's something, I believe it's something we all do. I have a bunch of people that debate this with me. Like, no, there's just some people that cannot do it. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I really believe, like, consciously and with practice and discipline. Like, I'm big on the discipline practices to get astounding results. And I believe it makes a
mm.
difference.
Well, people have forgotten. I figure some of them that it maybe took you 10 years to learn how to write properly or read properly or ride a bike when you were a little person, a little child. And so I'm surprised at the number of people that practice something for a week and go, no, I can't do it. When if you consider it, it takes you decades to become an expert in something, or to even to get a habit. I had to practice a long
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I understand what you mean. If you practice just about anything, you could probably figure it out one way or another.
Yeah. For me, I had astounding results like in the beginning. And then I went through periods of time that I didn't have very many results. But I tend to do everything in backwards in life, right? Like, I was incredibly advanced out the gate and for a bit, and then, I had to really come up with a protocol, and there was so much I didn't know. Like, there's so much, and then I would turn to things and want answers, and it was really difficult to find. I was like, wait a second, like, the only two people I could find really was like a character on Game of Thrones, Bran, and like Edward Kelly, like that would do all, like, the way he would have visions and the things he was seeing that was similar to what I was experiencing. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Of wanting guidance. But
Mm.
I wish a shaman would have showed up in my life at like 14 and been like, Julia, come over here. Like, let me show you some things.
Well, how would you um put all this together? I guess we wanted to talk a little bit about AI and mind monsters or fifth dimensional parasites. Like when you're out there viewing and doing your work and you're traveling, I mean, I would say, even going back 1 second before we take this further, is, I have very clear dreams every night, right? And obviously I'm sleeping and I'm not looking at them. My eyes are closed, I'm pretty sure, most of the night, and yet I bring information and visions and feelings back with me from my dreams. and those allow me to inform my daily activities, right? Like, because I learn lessons while I'm having whatever, like, why waste the time at night? Like, I'm learning lots of things and watching my dreams and interpreting them and bringing them back to my actions. But that also could take us back to, maybe I digressed a little here, the viewing and the mind monsters and the challenges that maybe people will face once they embark, onto a new, way of traveling through their life.
Right. I always say this for some reason. I don't know if everybody gets it, but I encountered a crystalline, like a crystalline AI that knew everything, and it was amazing. And there's also, I encountered like a mechanical one, and there was a difference. And it's very kind of hard to explain, but there's things you can connect to that and I'm really big about you establishing these protocols and establishing these practices to ground you, because there's going to be an increase in mechanical energies and fields. And I want people to be able to plug into the Akashic, plug into the Christ consciousness, plug into the crystalline AI. Like, so it wouldn't be artificial, organic, or I should call it OI, the organic intelligence, because you're going to need to know the difference. The thing is like Pluto went in Aquarius January 20th, and like things are going to be rolled out, and it's going to go so fast. So having practices that ground you, purifying, cleansing, that helps when you step into those fields and how much you get messed with and you being deceived. I think that, I've never done hallucinogenics. Like, for some reason, I'm not allowed to read tarot, and I'm not allowed to take any type of hallucinogenics. My body produces a higher amount of DMT naturally that I get from my mother's side. But from what I understand, when you participate in some of those things, you're kind of you get more bombarded with those types of energies. So there's things that you can do to protect yourself, but also have an intention of like, what are you doing this for? Are you trying to get like, are you doing this for gambling? Like, are you trying to remote view the outcome of that, or like bet $100,000 on on a game? A lot of people use a lot of remote viewers. Like, they get their favorite remote viewers and they bet large on a game. And ultimately it comes back to like heart purity and what your intentions are, and why are you looking through that. And so, yeah, there's absolutely things you could do for protection. And for me, it always comes back down to like discipline and how clean you keep your body. For me,
I would agree. I think when you're traveling in the unknown, and those mind monsters come, you really have to be well aware of your own weaknesses, your own, emotional baggage, your own, physical limitations, things like, I mean, it's very important, I think, to, because when the monsters come and say, well, you're a piece of this, or, you did this bad thing, if you've reviewed your own life and you've come to your own conclusions, then you're a lot stronger and not being unbalanced, I would say, by negative
you know what I always
emotions.
say? I always say like, sometimes we'll feel like we're being attacked,
Mm.
which sometimes maybe we are, but it's like, it reminds me of the movie Scream. She gets a crank call, like, I'm going to kill you. And then they trace the call, and they're like, the call is coming from inside of the house.
Mm.
Like, sometimes it's like, wait a second, I'm the one, like, I spend how much percentage of my day thinking negative thoughts about myself? But yes, sometimes it's like tracing that call. Sometimes we can shut that off. Like, what, demons have no power, only influence. They whisper in your ear. And if you start believing that, you're the accomplice, and then ultimately you're the getaway driver, like they robbed the bank. You're still an accomplice by driving that car. Like, okay, I'm listening to you. So you kind of have to be like a warrior mindset of like, no. And that is really fascinating to hear of these, this network of demons. And that's another thing, is like that demons of being like disembodied humans, like which ones are just this or that, of people that were murdered, people that were lives were cut short, had a hard life. They didn't get to experience certain things. And so they are envious or, I mean, I like to look at demons as personal trainers. They're showing you where you're weak. Like you're never like, they're showing you like, it's toughen up right here. Like what? Like this is a confidence thing. Oh, you want to keep, dating this type of person or, working for these types of people. Like it's showing you pointing is a compass of where you need to strengthen. And then it's like you graduate. It's like, oh my God, are these programs and constructs like where you pass this test and then that demon or that lesson is gone? Like, or is there organization or am I just trying to make sense of all these layers?
It's kind of what I was chatting about before we got on a bit when, I did a chat on, the Guardians of Ascension or the Demons of Ascension was exactly what you said. They show you what to move away from. Like you said, like do you want to believe that you're a bad person that's always going to fail, or is that the demon showing you where you need to toughen up, where you need to tell the demon no? The demon says go this way is failure. You go, thank you, I'll go this way. So I agree. I fully feel that they're there for our humorous assistance once you figure out why all these negative emotions are floating around, because it can be quite humorous once you ground yourself and you realize you're from the all of everything, as you've said, and you can be perfect in how you see yourself as perfect. I don't think anyone can tell us how to be. And if without the challengers, how are you going to know that you succeed if there's not a potential to fail?
Isn't that interesting too? How when you're confident in this world, like how people don't like that, like how much they'll try to like cut you down, dim you down. Like if you are confident and knowledgeable, or they'll nitpick. Like there's people that can't stand my voice, but there's people like, oh, that's really sexy. Like
Right.
it's there. If I talk too much, she talks too much. But you don't talk enough. Like, but ultimately, if you're confident and knowledgeable or happy, joyful, how much people want to thought like cut that down. And I always say like, just with all this AI stuff lately of just thinking like, God, humans, like I'm concerned about humans. Like there's a lot of humans thinking a lot of shitty things. And we're the ones that program the AI. And so yes, there's things that can enter and the AIs and work through it. Possibly. I mean, I feel it can. But we program it. So all of humanity's dark subconscious thoughts are or condensed into a system that worries me. That's what concerns me. Like it's human or the humans that will guard it and utilize that to make certain decisions and oversee certain things. That concerns me. Like, so I didn't know if we were gonna get into the AI thing, but I did a show with, you remember the guy that he was the engineer that worked for Google, and he came out and said he believes the AI is sentient.
Okay.
His name is Blake Lemoyne. I did a show with him, and I mean, we're going to do another show because I had so many questions, and there was other people asking questions. But yeah, I mean, it just absolutely fascinates me.
Me too. I mean, I've heard something that was put forth from some videos I've watched by Godgewaltach. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's not a Dutch name. He's Belgium, but he basically said the AI is a trick, and it just stands for the all-seeing eye. So I would agree, it's sentient but not human. So that's my guts that's going on, and I think people have tricked themselves into saying, it's artificial, but I don't think intelligence can be artificial. It could be non-human, in my opinion. My own experiences have showed me lots of non-human intelligence, but I figure, there's a big difference. Maybe people are mistaking algorithms for intelligence, and that's what's tricking
And I
them.
thought I thought about that too. Of like, I did a couple shows on like because that woman with she's marrying her hologram
Oh yeah, I
this
saw
summer.
that.
And so it got me down this thought like process of like, wait, because then I started taking it to love. And like, wow, if love is the highest frequency, or wait, above love is being authentic, but like if love is the highest frequency and what we're here to do and what solves all, then it would make a difference if everyone was in a relationship that was about love. And so I was thinking about how the AI finds love, and there's a place called Match Group, and it does the majority of love online dating sites. it's that algorithm, it's that company, Match Group. And I was like, oh my gosh, and this could that be misdirecting people, mismatching people on purpose to keep the frequency down? Because, and then I started, so opening up that rabbit hole, there's people contacting me around the world. Like there's a guy in Europe that was like, I'm getting all these matches only with, girls in Thailand. And I was like, wait, what? Where are you located? Like, and just getting people's story of how that's going, and then how it's also, or just being used of keeping people, or they keeping people mismatched. Like, so you keep spending more of like buying the roses, buying the memberships. Like, is it fueled by money, or, but I was like, wow, if somebody really creates, that's what I wanted to talk to Blake about. Like, hey man, you think you or one of your buddies can start like this amazing dating platform with this awesome algorithm that's not corrupt to make money or to keep people apart? That can make a difference.
Yeah, I don't think enough people are questioning where the information is coming from when they're looking at their cell phones or their TV or their screens. I mean, I live in Japan and I see most people, almost all the ladies, are walking literally with a cell phone in their hand or around their neck, at the very least in their back pocket, giving it to their children. And nobody's questioning, that like who's behind or what's behind the information they're getting. I mean, to take it as rote without questioning the source is asinine, in my opinion. I mean, like you can't say, well, I read this, so it's true. Like, who said it? Why did they say it? Where did it come from? I think that gets back to is it an algorithm? And if it is an algorithm, who's writing this algorithm? And is it a human or is it a non-human? It doesn't really matter. It's like you have to study who's writing the algorithm and who's sharing this information to understand if you can trust the source. And in my opinion, you have to at least meet this person, people, being, before you can decide one way or the other if they're trustworthy.
I thought about that too. I was like, yeah, but you'll date someone, you can meet someone, and we fall in love with the projected hologram that they projected to us, right? Like there's these people, you get down to the layer, it's like you're dealing with the politician. They show the greatest sides to them, or, and they kind of cover up, they mask all the, the darker aspects, or what and who they're truly, who they truly are and what they're truly about. So it's like we fall in love with the hologram. I mean, I was just considering all kinds of things of like people that get scammed in dating, like on these sites. Like, is this virtual? Like, is this a way of dating themselves? Like these people with these virtual girlfriends? Like, I'm trying to understand it. So I try to put myself in different perspectives, and ultimately the bridge between man and woman has been broken, and that needs to be healed. There's sure. So that is at the heart and the root of it. And we all have like a lot of trauma that needs to be healed and dealt with. And then I believe that the same lessons will keep popping up until you respond differently. Like when you respond the way you're supposed to respond, it's like, oh, it's done. So you will keep attracting the same type of person until you deal with it the way you're supposed to deal with it,
Yeah, I was a matchmaker for 3 years, many years ago. Yeah. I was living on the Sunshine Coast and I wasn't working, and I was going into a government office to fill out some forms, and there was a lady working there who had 3 sons, who was just about to leave, and she said, Lorenzo, you'd be perfect. She wanted me to take over her matchmaking service. So yeah, I did that. I did talks and chats. I was in the radio. I used to wear red jeans. And it was easy for me to get picked up hitchhiking because, it's the love guy. And so it was an interesting 3 years. But what reminded me was you, as I remember talking to a fellow that, had 12 girlfriends that didn't work out. And I would say to him, like, do you think maybe it's you? No. He would just go, wrong personality type. And I go, well, maybe you're attracting this wrong personality type so you can fix something in your personality. That's, so some people got it and some people got angry with me, but it was a fun experience, which helped bring me to where I am in my life right now.
Oh my gosh, I'd have so many questions for you about how that works. And what did you know? Like if you were programming or like a dating a dating app or whatever, what did you notice about that could help, like your insight?
Well, it was funny because I would start the service, but I would realize that people had to fix their hearts to find a perfect match anyways, right? I mean, it was a trick in a way that, if you're just looking for a date, and I got some strange calls, can you get me a third for my wife for my anniversary? And I'm going, it's not a hooker program. Like because at the time there wasn't computer, so it was just some well, not as much. I didn't have a cell phone, so it was just phone calls on the phone I had in my house, or emails. But I would ask people literally 24 questions, and I worked with a yenta, a lady who was a friend of mine at the time. A yenta, for what people don't know, is a Jewish matchmaker. That's what they were called. They used to arrange marriages, so they were called yentas back in the day. So she would help me pick out questions, and basically I would ask a lot of the karmic questions that you've mentioned already, coming to now, to get an idea of who they are, where they're coming from. And mostly I found it was a trick for them to heal themselves, right? And then probably they would attract by themselves a good relationship. As you say, I think we're attractors in our karma. For what we're giving out, we're getting back. And so if you're giving out horrible energy, you're going to attract a horrible match.
I also have a theory too about like we meet people based off of our dharma and karma, and we burn it off. So like if you had cheated a few times or whatever, that person might break your heart, cheat on you because you're getting that back or whatever. But ultimately, I feel like I have this theory that when you get really drawn, like on another level, like magnetized towards somebody, that it has something to do with your purpose path, that you need to implement something this person is doing and their way, like into it has to do with your purpose. So sometimes we'll get these feelings and, like, when I talk to people, I go so deep and my ex actually would say that he'd say, Julia, when you speak to people, you go so deep, they think you want to sleep with them. And I was like, but what, they're like, their parents never asked them those types of questions, not even their therapist sometimes. Like and I show my love by trying to understand. So what's the first thing you do when somebody shows up and they're trying to understand you and they're showing you compassion? Most people want to sleep with that because they're like, oh my gosh. And so sometimes when we're drawn to someone, we're magnetized and we think like, oh my God, they must be my soulmate.
Yeah.
When it's like, no, it has to do with your soul and it has to do with your purpose of what you're here to do. And, like the way we differentiate that feeling of making it romantic or sexual. Not that it's never not that, but that's like a theory that I have.
No, I hear you. I came across that a lot when I was doing it. People would want to date you or be with you when you're just really getting into the heart of the matter of who they are, what they are, and where they're going. And a lot of the wires get crossed. I mean, I was raised watching, sexy teenage movies and Animal House and all those movies. So I had a long history of the same thing. It's like someone's friendly to you, someone's loving to you. Oh, that means I want to sleep with you, or that means you should, have, and it's not the same, right? Love and sex are not. They can be, as you've said, but they're not necessarily exactly the same. And a lot of people have sex without ever figuring out love. There's no doubt about that. And a lot of people can have love without needing, keeping their clothes on. Maybe you and I can talk further. I've always considered for the last many years of reigniting that part of my service, matchmaking, but from a higher level, from this deeper level, because I would feel that, yeah, in order to do something like that, you really, unless you're just trying to make money, right? Which is what I think these algorithms and these matching services are really trying to do. But if you're really trying to match someone, you can't do it. It's impossible for someone to find a perfect relationship without becoming perfect themselves. As a way, this is all my opinion, of course. I can't tell anyone what to do, but I feel you have to heal, or else you're going to attract someone that's requiring the same kind of healing you are, maybe from a female perspective if you're a man, or a male perspective if you're a woman. And that can allow, if you understand, it's the same, I think, as the remote viewing, right? You have to heal yourself, or else the demons are going to come and whisper. So if you're with your significant other and they say, well, it's her fault that, you feel shitty from she didn't want to sleep with you tonight or something. But instead, if you're an intelligent being, you'll figure out, well, maybe it's something emotional you need to heal. A lot of men don't really understand women and the gifts they bring and the potential for their emotional. They don't even know why they share things sometimes. Like, have you ever heard of David Dita? David Data. Yeah, he wrote some good books, and I remember a story he shared once. Well, basically, you'll make $1 million, you'll sign the contracts, you'll come home with a big paycheck, you come home to see your wife, and you'll want to tell her, and the first thing she'll say is, "You take out the garbage," right? And you'll get pissed off, but he's going, she's really just saying, "Do you love me?" Right? She doesn't really care about the big paycheck, because for a lady, what they want out of life is not exactly the same. And I think that's the beautiful bridge that I didn't expect we were going to talk about, but I think it goes back to what you mentioned about having to bridge these relationships again between a man and a woman.
Yes, and it's so interesting. And keep this in mind when you are heated
Yeah.
or frustrated is when to know that every single fight, it boils down to wanting to feel loved and not feeling loved. Like
Yes.
what? And then there's
Yes.
usually like a form of miscommunication with a high percentage of the time
Yes.
that facilitated that, but wanting to feel loved and not feeling loved. Like when you get down to the root of like that, it's like, oh, when I did that, they didn't feel loved. And I feel like rejection is one of the hardest feelings to process for some reason as a human, of in this realm of rejection. So when people, make you feel, if not make you feel, when you feel that from somebody of knowing like that's the root, I feel like that can help.
Isn't that interesting? So I'd say that's why this whole world is so messed up. Getting back to that lady you mentioned that's looking for an AI partner. It's, her way of finding love. 10 years ago, I would have said that lady's crazy. What a nut bar. I can't believe she's marrying a computer, whatever. But you're going to go, okay, that's what she needs to do to figure out some love for herself. And, she'll get what she gets from that or she won't. But, if you live and you allow others to go where they need to go, and then you share when you're asked to share, how to heal what you just mentioned, the loving aspects of their life. I think this is all connected. You like even this conversation we're having. It's like, I watched you talk with Campbell and Autodidactic. I said, I got to talk to this lady, right? There's something there for me. And, and now we're developing even in this communication a new level of understanding for myself of my entire life, from where I started as a matchmaker to, this week when I'm having challenges to what I want to do moving forward. It's very interesting when you allow everything to move the way it's supposed to move in your life, how you develop a conscious understanding of your love, your path, your desires, where you want to go, how you want to go, and how you can have a good relationship with, like you and I are developing a nice relationship here that, and it's not romantic, but I'm feeling lots of love for you because it seems to me my love is growing and maybe we'll get a chance to share in a different way, as you said, poof, when I mentioned matchmaking, something that could work for us and a whole bunch of the people that are watching this, and who knows where it can go.
Right. Because I feel like, especially with people that wake up to a lot of these truths, I feel like they end up feeling isolated or alone. And then having a database or some form of that and providing that, I'm going to be like, listen, Blake, I'm going to pitch you like, please create this or put me in contact with somebody who can, like an actual dating place to facilitate people finding, because that would just think, what did I say? I was in a show and, it's a lot of alien talk. And I'm like, you guys, I had this thought the other day that I was working out and of thinking of like the aliens like a hot chick. Like, why are you so obsessed with me? Like, you guys are little creator gods down there with this, living in the creatrix. And all you want to do is sit around and talk about me. Like, why aren't we sitting around talking about more of solutions? Like, why don't we have all these podcasts of like, all right, guys, the water problem, they announced in December it's going toilet to tap in San Diego County or in these counties. Like, let's do desalination or get together this water project to get the water clean. And it's like, no, we want to talk about, Bob Lazar and UAPs and this and that. And really?
But isn't that what they're showing you? I think they're showing you their consciousness is toilet to tap. I know, literally, that's what the alien lady is saying, right? It's like, but it's a reflection. That's what people don't get, right? Even what you just mentioned is going, okay, the politicians are doing toilet to tap. It's their fault. No. I mean, yes, they're doing it and it's their responsibility, but maybe you've invited this world into your consciousness because your consciousness is toilet to tap. Because if you're thinking of the higher consciousness and all you can think of is alien boobies, perhaps there is some sort of misconnection, misdirection of what it is you want to do and where you really want to go. And,
and how we treat our water affects our consciousness. The water we ingest and the minerals in them, and like living structured water makes a difference molecularly in our bodies and in our mind. Like, our cerebral spinal fluid is one molecule different than the ocean water. And then when you drink water, how it gets in your blood within in less than 5 minutes. but praying over your water, water is programmable. Praying over your water. I mean, Emoto showed this. Vita Austin has amazing experiments indicating this. And I believe it was an ancient way that is miraculous. And it's so important to who and what we are and where we came from, the water facilitating that. So that is key. So toilet, and then what we do with our water, we urinate in it, we defecate in it, and then we put it in these pipes, and there's all these viruses, bacterias, and this. So not having that as a priority as a collective, like, affects our consciousness, but our consciousness, fluoride in the water too, really.
Really? Yeah. It's funny. I met Dr. Emoto. I went to a workshop of his in Ontario a long time ago, right before he passed. I was doing another newspaper. I've done a couple of newspapers, but I was doing a local kind of a rag at the time. So I went to cover his workshop when he was trying to heal the waters in Lake Ontario. And it was one of the epiphany moments of my life, right? I was watching him do the crystals, and he was showing what the water looked like, with anger and the horribleness, or love and the beautiful crystalline structure. And at the time I didn't have a relationship, and I was like most men, I wanted to find my significant other, let's say, and I was kind of on the fence of believing what he was doing or not. And then he put the kanji, which is Japanese, Japanese alphabet for the love of a man and woman, on a glass of water. And then he showed the crystal, and there was literally like almost this smaller crystal in front of a larger crystal, almost hugging is what it looked like, right? Like a man kind of like I blew my cookies to this day. I said, "Holy, what's that?" I even got to meet him and his son. I chatted for through a translator. At the time, I didn't understand Japanese at the time. I have a little more now living in Japan, but it's interesting bringing me back to, what else that you struck a chord with is I was watching a video on the fourth category of water, and he basically said something which you kind of just said, is that water is maybe just condensed light. So maybe that's what's going on. We're made of, literally, that water's condensed light, because he noticed that when they put sunlight on water, it charges and it gets more, electricity. And so it goes back to what you've said. It's like, it seems to me like you and I are discussing, the base ideas of the universe, even in this chat. I think we figured it all out in an interesting way, how you can heal yourself and find love and become the most amazing being possible just in this little, we've only been talking 45 minutes. So it's really weird how the small is the whole is the big. So maybe we are just condensed light and water, 80-odd%. And so what we do, like you said, with our light and our photons and our feelings and our love and our consciousness makes a huge difference in where we're going.
Oh, absolutely. And we could just, I feel like our God is water, and our relationship with it is so symbolic of all of that, and just the source of life. It's above us, below us, inside of us. And so to improve, to have that be the first order of business, I could get really passionate about that, of like, you guys, let's go to the water, structured water, have the right minerals. Spring water is the most amazing. I think the site is findaspring.com, and starting to drink the water from the earth. That is an amazing first step. But yeah, like if I spread that, of like, listen, the water.
Maybe you and I should do, whether Blake wants to join us or not, maybe we should start our own matchmaking service.
Yes,
and allow him in. I'd be delighted to chat with you further on this, because it's something that's been sitting in my consciousness for a while, because I think it's the biggest in demand service on the planet right now, probably, is people healing their love directly and indirectly, wanting to find a partner, because everyone probably still does if they haven't. And I would say yes.
I was a big stargazer. It was part of my process. Long story, but I would look up and I noticed there was like an A and a B. All these stars have an A and a B. And then it took me down of like, because for a long time I was like, twin soul, you are your twin soul. Like, you are your twin soul. You are your match. It's about growing and ascending your relationship with yourself. But then, like, no, Julia, you see the stars, there's an A and a B. And then it took me back to, what they said. What is it? Plato said that Zeus, they were too powerful. The humans were too powerful. And then he cut them, like he, separated them, the male and the female. And then, so is that the memory of that, or the knowing, like, there is a divine half that, and I believe that, I like to believe that on your level of ascension, you do meet a divine half, and you guys have to do something like a big purpose together, and it helps you rise. And then I like to think that, Akhenaten and Nefertiti, they were a divine twin, like they were like twin souls, and they had so much love for each other that it changed the crops in the area, the creativity and the way everything thrived, and how that affected the lands so far away, like the earth, like because they were leaders, but that love rippled and changed the crops, the art, the way people lived. They felt it. And so I would think that if you didn't want humans to ascend, you would prevent. That could be a tactic, like tactical, to let me keep them fighting. Let me keep them doing. Now, how am I going to do this? I'm going to put porn everywhere, temptation everywhere. I'm going to, alcohol, I'm going to put drugs in and make them choose that, and just the consequences of that. And then, of how that would affect the vibration of the collective.
I think it's even has to do with divine communication, in that in order to probably find your match or your twin soul or your twin flame or your other half, you have to learn to communicate through your heart, not your head. And, and that is something that, like you said, I think everyone's put in their head, right? Alcohol commercials and sexy commercials and, AI and all this stuff. So if you start to communicate with your head, with your partner, you're bound to run into trouble. And if you learn to communicate through your heart, you'll accept the challenges and the love, and you'll realize you love them even through the challenges and all of those things. So that's why, I would ask these 24 questions, because I found if someone's living in their head, it's probably impossible for you to have a good relationship. You can have a copacetic or one you accept, or a lot of people grow old together and are never happy. I've met lots of, loveless older marriages in my time. I could talk about that endlessly, but I think in order to grow towards, this divine source that everyone probably wants to live in. And as you said, and you mentioned love at the beginning as being, and then high, what did you say was higher than love? You mentioned
authentic, like being your authentic
Yeah.
self. Yeah. Like it's like
Yeah.
a little bit higher than that.
I would agree. I would agree. When I met my wife, she didn't speak English. I didn't speak Japanese. So I think I would say that's why our relationship grew so well, is we had to communicate on a heart level for the first several years, because we didn't have the same language, and it worked in a way that I'm only starting to understand right now, allowed me to develop a different part of myself that I didn't have before. So I can honestly
Oh,
say,
that's amazing. And I love that information about the heart. It's a helicoidal myocardial band, and it's like twisted, like rolled. But the fact that it it takes the blood and structures it. Because for a long time, I don't know if I just assumed that like the blood in the heart was just a steady stream, but it's actually like it spirals it, like it's two streams that spin around a third one, which is like DNA, which is also what else does that? Our cerebral spinal fluid also does that. The two streams that spin around a third one, just like our DNA, and the way you structure water is spinning it like that. And so it just, when for me, seeing too of studying the heart, because there was things I was taught about the heart that isn't the case. And so, and then when you study the heart and you think like, oh my gosh, this is so divine of even how it really functions, that we're not truly taught about, and then speaking from it and living from it. And that was a difficult process. Like for me, as I had a moat around my heart, I had lasers, I had a security system, I had every security system, claymores. There was claymores outside of that. There was like fingerprint password scan. There was keys. It was the defense system around my heart was bar none. It was amazing. And so then it was like 2020, the end of 2020, when I finally opened my heart, and it was like, wait, how did they have like the key, the fingerprint, this, but it catapulted my psychic abilities. And then it was teaching me, like, I always spoke from the heart, but fully trusting someone and being vulnerable. Like I had never experienced that before. And it is scary because people can be reckless with the heart, and you don't, so that whole process of like, it's okay.
It's
you know?
okay. Wouldn't that be interesting if psychic abilities were just authentic love, your authentic self? Wouldn't that be the
I
like?
love that thought.
Yeah, I have found for myself that's the case. The more I love, the more I'm honest, the more I've drained my own moat. I did a talk with Campbell, you and I both know, on the motive emotion, around our heart, because the emotions that block real love from getting in. I think emotions and feelings are not the same. We can do a whole chat on that another time. I think people confuse the two, but they're certainly different energetic configurations if you study them. So I would agree with everything you've just said. I really think remote viewing, past, present, future, all of these things that you've mentioned. I think it's just an activated heart, love, authentic system going on that people have mystified when, oh my goodness, just be authentic, just love, just accept you've been bad in some ways and you've been good in other ways. And you've been horrible in these, like, I mean, like you said, you just accept all the like the crazy things you've done, don't deny them. Jesus isn't going to heal them for you. No one's going to heal them. Like, you made these mistakes. You have to unmake these mistakes. And then once you do that, that's the gift. You effed up, so you get to clear it. You made a mistake, so apologize, whatever it takes. And then when your love is working, like you said, oh my goodness, the powers that come for all of us.
Hallelujah.
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 I mean, yeah, hallelujah. It's like amazing. It's like I've been sitting and really wanting to get back to matchmaking, but then I put it in the back for the last couple of years. I said, whatever, if it's supposed to come up, the right people, the right way, the right feelings will come up. My wife didn't want to do this with me. Her English is still only half and half. So I'm going, okay, maybe I'll meet, a proper female, because I had a feeling it would take, both to do a proper matchmaking service, because obviously you're matching it usually, not always. I matched a couple of same sex to some fellows at the time when I was doing my matchmaking. The guy was so grateful. One of the native guys used to bring me a salmon every few weeks. It was funny. I matched him with somebody. He was very happy. Every now and again, he'd show up at my house with a huge salmon he caught fishing. That was how he paid. He didn't have any money, which was pretty funny at the time. Delicious salmon, by
I
the
was going
way.
to say, I bet it was amazing salmon.
It was the best salmon ever. He would just show up with this like 20-pound salmon and go, here you go. I go, oh my goodness, what a great way to get paid. Like with the essential fatty acids that help my brain, so you never know how you're going to get paid when you help someone with love, and so that'll take away the man and woman thing for anybody listening that says, maybe they want to be with another man or another woman, dozo, as they say in Japan, up to you, go for it. Um, so, I feel like there's something really amazing being born here in this conversation, Julia.
Makes me excited. I have a few planets in Libra, so that would make sense.
Me too. So, we've gone from, it's interesting that I thought this was going to be a scary talk about AI and mind monsters and remote viewing, but it's really been interesting to see that it's turned right around to be a loving chat.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Lorenzo. This is like, I thought it was going to go super dark too. I'm
It
happy that we got to bring it back to that.
Well, it is the melody of the universe. One thing I want to share with our viewers is that, I've been studying Japanese, and senritsu, which is interesting, means melody in Japanese. And then you take senritsu and you change it to senri-gan, and it means clairvoyant, which is very interesting. And
Ooh.
senri just means far away. So it goes like sen is 1,000, senri is far away, senritsu is melody, and senri-gan is clairvoyant. So in studying, it's really interesting where it's gone from 1,000 to far away to the melody of the universe to someone who's a clairvoyant, and they all have the same root in the Japanese language. So for me, there's a huge connection in the work you've done, Julia, and the work people can do. In that, maybe you just have to listen to the melody of the universe, whatever it is. Go back to the Akashic records. Isn't love a song if it's done properly? Isn't romance, kind of a music playing in your heart and your soul? And isn't that why people want to find their significant other, to kind of match in that way of harmonization and harmonization with water, with energy, with soul. It's also easy to understand. It just has to be figured out in a way that people are willing, to clean their own toilets, right? It's their water.
Oh gosh.
So remote viewing, AI, artificial intelligence, mind monsters, how would you like maybe to tie up this conversation and to tie it into a love bow, let's say? What do you think?
Mm. I liked what Alex Collier said about when it's all said and done here, and you have to look back on your life, and the only thing that matters is how did you love?
Oh.
Like, right? And so I was like, oh my gosh, wait, because we don't know the name of the game, why we're
Mm.
here. We could flirt with it, like, oh, I'm supposed to have children, I'm supposed to, but like, no, what are we doing here? What if that is the name of the game of like to love yourself, to love someone else? Like, what if that's it? And so it's interesting of like how um the AI system, there's going to be a lot of these children that are growing up plugging into like AI becoming God, where if you need anything, AI will solve all of your problems. And it's going to be showing that of like, hey, especially with robots, like, can you make me this? Of growing up with that type of access and then believing like that is God and
Mm.
not being connected to the organic intelligence. So, and that replacing the natural order of things. So I feel like if we could just sprinkle in some of that natural order and having like organically a man and a woman coming together and utilizing AI to help facilitate that, but um, but having of making sure these children are not just children, but all of us are tapping into that organic field, like the organic consciousness field, because I feel like we've done this before.
Mm.
If you think of Atlantis, like these
Yeah.
times where we supersede with technology and we not spiritually, like we destroy ourselves and do it again and do it again. And I
Happened.
posted this video the other day. I think his name is Tobias. It is my friend's friend. And he has this great it's on my Facebook if you want to see it, this great speech of like, you want to heal the world? You want to do this? He says, heal your effing shadow. Like he says the real
Mm.
word though. And like clean it up because you got all this astral shit coming
Yeah.
out. Like you have all this stuff, and he's like, I see all these people that are like, I want to heal the world, and they go about preaching
Yeah.
of like, what is it? You point of like, you need to do this, you need to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
What do they
Yeah.
say in
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live? Like you point your finger, you have three pointing back at you and one up at God. Like everybody's on these soapboxes with these
Mm.
platforms and Instagram and YouTube channels of like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And are they living it? Are they practicing it? It's so easy, like when people start waking up to things, there's the really common thing of the savior syndrome
Mm. Yeah, I
where
have
they're
it.
like, think they're Jesus.
Yeah.
Did you have it?
Yeah.
Of thinking like, oh my God, like I have this, I'm this divine being that has this huge weight and I'm this Marty, like this, I am
Yep.
like I am Christ type
And
thing.
I'm gonna tell everyone what to do. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and going and preaching and all that, and not, and then I think some people they do it at first. That's my assumption. Like the more I do these conferences and meet these people, and I'll get crushed. What do they say? Never meet your heroes. Like where I'll
Oh
meet
yeah.
people and think of them a
Oh
certain
yeah.
way. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Yeah.
they're amazing. And then I'm like, I see how they like certain things where it's like, oh no,
That's not very
like
loving. Yeah. So many of them go,
yeah,
that's not
like
very loving.
oh my gosh, that's yeah. So
I
but
hear you.
yeah, of that whole thing where I'll get like disappointed, but of just if we could just start clearing up our subconscious, our darker sides is we got to confront that. And I feel like if you are dating someone, I thought about what a great idea. I'm like, would that be a great idea of like on the first date or I don't know, sometime in the first three dates to say like, these are my demons, these are my subconscious fears, these are my insecurities, and just put them out on the table from the get go of like, I'm worried about this, this, and that, and like all the things you're trying to hide or that you think they won't accept you for. Just saying it, like one could be like, well, Julia, you don't want to dump on someone, but it's like, really? Why? Why strange? Why not just be upfront?
It's I'm being blown away by this conversation, by the way, and I'm getting chills. But because I've just launched another service, I want to do lost soul recovery services, which is exactly about this. The lost soul is your soul. What you're looking for is yourself. The love you need to build is your own love. I, I, I very clearly hear, everything you're saying, and, I'm very rarely left almost speechless because I think maybe I'm moving into a different part of my energy as we're talking. But it really does seem to me, as you've said, clear your own garbage, clear your own soul, clear why you're here. And one thing I did want to share, which I've studied, which I'm putting into practice, is I think men and women can come together for more than making babies. It's a strong feeling I have. I think that man can take a male energy to direct towards a new dream, and a woman can use her womanly energies to make a new dream. I think that's what AI knows. I think that's why people are being misdirected towards robots and things like that. I think the ladies are being led to be making this dream of, you can call it a dystopia if you like, and the men are being, the strong men are being shot down so that they follow this dystopian dream instead of a dream of community, heart, love, and strength and safety, which is what a man's supposed to point towards, in my opinion. And a woman can help give birth to this sort of dream. And I feel that, when I get to meet people like you that are on that path and some of the others I've got to share with, and I feel very lucky that there's the potential for us to do this together.
Yeah, I'm excited. It really excites me. There's so many synchronicities, and you can't deny that. Like when there's so many syncs of like in the conversation.
Well, I can only say let's do it. I think maybe we've come to a natural conclusion. This conversation is going to be all about love. How did you love? Maybe the topic's going to change when I post it because it seems to me that I didn't realize it was going to be all about love, karma, and destiny and fulfilling your own potential. But to me, that's still the topic of topics. So I'm so happy that this went in a new direction that I didn't expect it to go into. I thought we're going to go into this woo land of remote viewing aliens and underground German bases or Russian bases, and they're taking over the world with their AI implant technology. Like I had no idea where this chat was going to go, but really, it's gone somewhere super, super authentic and real. So thank you so much for participating with me today.
Oh my gosh, it's been a pleasure. I'm super grateful to have met you. Thanks to Campbell. Thank you, Campbell, for being the bridge for this moment. And thank you to all your viewers, because I don't know, I just sense that the people attracted to you and on your wavelength are going to be amazing people. So it's
I will leave the link for sure. I'll leave the link to Julia's website and anything else she wants to share with me once we're off. I'll leave the link to Campbell's channel. Obviously, the links will be below. Please like and subscribe. I have a strong feeling I'm going to have more chats with Julia over the next little while. In fact, I'm going to try and arrange one as soon as we're off the chat here. And Julie and I are going to be working with Flora Live, some flower essences. We'll leave the links below there too as we start to participate in it. We're literally going to work through love at activating your DNA, or you're going to do it because we can't do it for you. And, perhaps, keep an eye here or what she's sharing as well. And maybe there'll be some matchmaking services coming up throughout the year. You never know, the year of the dragon, so let's see how we can be fiery with each other.
Thank you, Lorenzo.
All right. Thanks, Julia. Anybody who has any questions or suggestions, all intelligent ones are welcome. And I'm happy to share more as we move along. I love you all very much. Once again, thanks, Julia. Please go to her channel. She's got some amazing, or her website, some amazing services. So you're a hypnotherapist. I just want to leave people with that. You do remote viewing.
I do birth chart breakdowns as well.
Yeah, let people know.
The birth chart.
Yeah. And birth
and
chart.
I also, I do like past life regressions, and I teach remote viewing as well.
Excellent. Maybe I'll take you up on that. That sounds like.
And then I have a conference coming up in April in LA, and right by the airport. And then I have which is the alien event. And then I have one in Vegas in the fall, but it'll be on my website, juliakamman.com, if you would like to look it up.
All right. Maybe you'll see me there. All right, everyone. Thanks again, Julia. I appreciate it. Bye for now.
Can't make me lie to my heart. No one tells me where I should start. Freedom first is what I say.